employees put reviews on Glassdoor. Consumers put reviews on Google reviews, on Trustpilot. And what does that create? It creates a situation where we no longer totally control our narrative. So from a branding point of view, if we can't control our narrative, we're in big trouble. So building the system, knowing that if this is your promise, safety first, everything needs to go inside and outside the company in that direction. If you don't, you're likely to face that situation where people are afraid to tell you that the systems are failing because they don't want to get a demotion or they get punished for it by a mid-size or middle management, if you will.
Welcome to Sharpen the Spear podcast, where we help manufacturing executives command the front and win the floor. I'm Richard Walsh, creator of the Sharpened Impact methodology, and I spent decades helping leaders transform frontline teams, unlock hidden profit, and capture capacity they didn't even know they had. If you want to see where your leadership gaps are costing you and how to fix them, head over to grittolead.com and run the free Sharpened Impact Simulator today. Let's sharpen your edge and get started. And we are back on STS, Sharpen the Spear podcast, with another incredible guest. I've got Gal Borenstein with us today. And Gal, no one knows Gal as well as Gal. So Gal, give us the backstory, bring us up to speed, because I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on your show. It's a great show, and I listened to some of the podcasts over time. About me, so my name is Gal Borenstein, and as you probably surmised, Gal is not an American name. I was born and raised in Israel, and came here to get my radio, television, and film degree. And so as life happened, I wound up going to graduate school as well. Married an American, was naturalized. And since then, basically, I started a company. It was called the Borenstein Group, which is a branding and PR agency. And we're celebrating 35 years in business. I started the company when I was 25, and nobody would have believed that it would go that far. So I have a very kind of American dream type of story, and I am full of gratefulness to a lot of people along the way that kind of helped me get to where I am. And to put it kind of like a pin in it, if you will, that's why the past 3 years I wrote 5 books. The latest is called Don't Believe the Hype, which is all about how to help people in leadership position to understand that trust is eroding because of digital and AI and how they should handle it. So I look forward to discussing it.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Don't believe the hype. I like it. You hear that, and I wouldn't think it'd be attached to leadership, which is good. You know what I mean? So you get to be kind of surprised, which is awesome. So yeah, let's kind of get into it, because talking about trust, this is a big deal. And I often say that today, I think the pendulum for automation has swung a little too far to one side, right? And I think it's coming back, and trust is a huge factor, a huge reason why it is. And you can combine it with relationship and things like that too. So kind of when did this begin for you? Like, you started seeing this or noticing this need for it? Where did you see the erosion begin, and what were kind of the outlying factors for it?
I think that number one, having the opportunity to work with CEOs over 30 years on branding, on PR, and advertising and content marketing and all these different things that are about communication. Very often when we do the analysis about what's unique about you, what differentiates you, it really starts with a discussion about what values do you have to bring to the table, and then making sure that leadership communicates it to the people in the middle and the people that are working on the factory floor. And typically what we found out, and I had many interviews with CEOs that basically didn't know how to take it from the product or the service or the innovation concept that they had and really kind of take it all the way to the marketplace because they didn't trust that everybody understand each other in the company. And that typically was kind of the stopping point. So in order to kind of overcome that and get to a solution, I really kind of start seeing that when I ask questions across the organization, across the organism, if you will, or the ecosystem that we work at, we start to see that people are not aligned. So there's the company values, there are the business objectives, and then there are people. And when you deal with people, if any one of these groups don't trust what they're selling, whether it's the internal narrative or people on the outside via social media, for example, now put bad reviews about a product, that could kill the company overnight. I was fascinated with trust from a very kind of early career perspective because typically trust is kind of something that most people take for granted if you're in a professional world. So let's say you have a certificate. A certificate is kind of a proof of accomplishment. If you get a medal, it's proof of accomplishment, right? But in reality, what changed is that before COVID, we were in a world where human interaction was very cozy, if you will, compared to what happened after COVID. Think about all the kind of trust signals that people have before COVID. Can we meet for lunch? Let's have a phone call, a conversation where I can hear your voice. Maybe we should email, but eventually everything kind of was around having people meet each other. Another one is shake hands in a trade show that you go to. So sadly, when COVID came, all this human interaction went away. And instead it was replaced by video conferencing that was never the preference of any person that is conducting business of any kind, simply because all studies have shown and still do that people don't like to be on video unless they're Hollywood people or newscasts crew. They really don't like the idea that you're going to see their face and their expressions when they're having communication. But because of COVID, that was the only way to communicate. So as video conferencing became kind of more personable, it did not basically promote itself in a way that aligns with what the market really was looking for in terms of kind of talent cohesion. So, for example, you're having a company meeting or a department meeting. What typically happens is you get 20 people on a Zoom call or meetings or whichever video conferencing tool you use. And you're trying to basically creating communication and relationship with everyone on that video call. But alas, your supervisor that is doing that call is in Nebraska. We have a distributed workforce now where, yes, you can accomplish a lot of things via automation and digital transformation, but at the same time, you don't shake the hands, you don't have the lunch experience, you don't have even a phone call that is not related to what we call transactions. And that eroded the trust that people have in each other to the point where, and we can go by age, and I don't want to age myself, but to say that I'm a Gen X. But I can tell you that the younger the folks that are getting into the workforce, they were born with an iPhone and they're communicating only by text or through text that goes via Slack, which is a CRM tool to allow people to communicate. But anywhere else, they really kind of don't want to communicate because they never used the phone. They never used the idea of let's get together for a cup comedy picnic. Let's get together for a happy hour, whatever the connection was, where people were vulnerable and opening yourself. So that's really kind of what broke the glass, if you will, and putting us in a really bad position right now in the marketplace. Because if you don't have the relationship that is based on trust, whatever you're selling, whatever you're pitching to the marketplace is very likely to fall between the cracks when one of these attributes that I discussed falls apart.
Yeah, I think I've always said there's no substitution for being in the room.
Yes,
There's
absolutely.
power in the room, not the Zoom room, but the
Yes.
real room. Because man, the energy, it can't be duplicated via video at all. It's just people are doing other stuff. They're looking at the camera, but they're actually reading a book right underneath it. You know what I mean? They're not paying attention to you. You have no idea
Yeah.
what's going on. You know,
Yeah.
and when it started, so I got on Zoom in like 2013, and it was terrible. You know, but they had the new thing, so I was kind of using it. But it was like little mini conference webinar stuff. People do things like that, but back then, and maybe a little bit before that, there was that saying, know, like, and trust, right? That's what we're building. We need to build people to know us, to like us, and trust us, right? Then it actually changed to know us, love us, and trust us. Okay, because like wasn't enough, right? So stuff gets beaten down. But I've always found being in that room. I gave a presentation just 2 days ago. In that room, at 35 people in a room, place is packed. Doing my thing. It's just the energy is just up there. People are engaging. You've got all the different stuff happening. You can literally call in people, because you're seeing who's doing what, and you can work the room. It's really really
Absolutely.
powerful.
Absolutely. And when you think about even all the innovation that is being brought into the marketplace, which loosely called digital transformation, uh, with AI, you can send 1,000 letters to 1,000 people with a click of a button, right? It's called the sales agent.
Yep.
And all those bots that are being built are based on really the idea that you can mass replicate an idea. But what they don't do is actually create an emotional profile, a persona profile, and a cognitive profile of the people that they're communicating with. So the result is you're making something that's supposed to be warm or warmer to get and accelerate the sale.
Yeah.
You're creating basically another barrier. And because you didn't do that, AI is really good at following your orders. And unfortunately, when your orders don't follow logic and emotional IQ, that's where the failure is happening. And I see it across the industry. It doesn't matter which industry, but
Yeah.
as soon as people are adopting AI, which is mostly because of FOMO, because of fear of missing out, uh, they're really not giving AI the right information
Right.
to make AI work with them instead of it for them.
Yeah. That was my presentation 2 days ago of AI in business. Like, let me show you how to really use it. Because everyone's got all this stuff and who's doing what and how to. It just like about the emails. Like, I hate the mass email thing. And it's not nothing gets open. It's an absolute waste. It's a money flush. Okay, that's all that is. But what I have done, to your point, is I understand exactly who I'm emailing to, right? And I tailor that. I use AI to craft it, but to this individual, like you said, it understands the personality. It knows, what pressure they're under in their position, shorter, longer, more analytical, things like that, right? And that's really helped. So I'll let it craft and I'll roast it down, right? And I'll get a few iterations of that email, finally get it good, okay, and then I'll throw in a sentence or two myself. I'll personalize it so it's like real, because I get so many. Take podcasting. I'll give you the example. Every pitch I get 3 to 5 a day to be on my show. And they're all, oh, when I was listening to so and so, it reminded me of this, and it's so and so, and bring on this guy, and every one of them's the same. So I'm like, oh, and they take like 3 paragraphs. Like
Yes.
I don't know human is going to write that much. Okay, so I'd rather have someone like, be short, be, this guy's awesome. It is this, and this. You guys have a great conversation, and let's get to business. Okay. Yours was a good pitch to me and everything else too. So you come on the show, right? But they're utilizing it, and I get it. They're trying to save time and then think they're connecting because they mentioned an episode that AI listened to because they didn't listen to it, right? So I totally understand that. So I've really shifted my thought process and my approach to this, and it makes a difference. It makes a huge difference because I can do way less. My volume's way less, but I'm very, very targeted with what I'm doing, who I'm speaking to, and how I'm speaking to them.
That's the right approach, and really kind of what we're seeing in the marketplace that AI now is kind of being built to kind of personalize and give an example that kind of hooks you in. Unfortunately, I get hundreds of email pitches for different things for selling like AI agents, for selling software, whatever it is. And you can tell immediately that people use the same example, even
Mm-hmm.
in multiple emails and from multiple companies. What does that tell you? It tells you that you can't trust what they're selling you and add a Gmail account where it comes from and
Yeah,
not a
yeah,
company account.
those are always my favorite. Yeah,
And
it's
that
the
is
used
really,
salesman, used car salesman kind of mentality, and
yeah.
I have found, we mentioned this before we came on air, is that the automation pendulum has swung so far to one side. It's starting to come back. People are starting to realize it, but there also this massive investment in AI, and all people are trying to do is make money with it, sell it. This is the next great thing, and everything else. And I've been through a lot of different things. I talk to people and see it, and it's not there yet. I watch improvements every day. I build entire things inside, Chat GPT and all those other. I've done amazing things inside there, but that is no one is doing what I'm doing in there, right? This is I have so much time in there, thousands of hours building things, right? Using it for that. But then even like I said, with the emails and all that stuff, but you really have to, I think people are starting to miss out on the relational aspect of business, right? You
Hmm.
can't, if you go to, like, I go to a lot of manufacturing companies and stuff like that too, right? And they're nice. I mean, these are big things. You go to the front door, I'm air quoting the front door, right? You can't get in. It's locked. Maybe there's a buzzer. Maybe there's a phone. There's no one there. They don't want to
Yeah.
talk to anybody. They've so automated, like you don't have a chance. So you'll appreciate this call. So I'm dressed like I work on the floor. I go in the big door that's rolled up, right? I walk in there and start talking to a shift lead. I just act like I'm supposed to be there, and I get to where I want to go. I just had to find a workaround because I could otherwise I got to send them emails. I don't even know who I'm talking to, So I found that personal touch is really powerful. It's
Yes.
again, it's time investment, but it's really well spent time because I get
And
worked my way up.
really kind of the divide that I observed over that kind of pre and post COVID really kind of goes uh, to the brass tacks of whether you know how to create an emotion, you know how to create positivity
Right.
when you communicate, or if it's a negative situation, it's a crisis. Do you have a way to speak in code that
Yep.
your people that know the code understand and are willing kind of to take responsibility and accountability? Because people screw up all the time, and if you don't screw up, get out of the way because you're not going to succeed if you don't screw
You're not
up.
trying hard
What?
enough. If you don't screw up, you're not
Yeah,
trying hard.
yes, but the whole notion that your entire career, especially for the millennials and Gen Zs that are in the workplace right now, they're working for a performance evaluation, for example. They wait for it, and then there is a form that they fill, and then they don't hear anything for 3 months. And then there's a phone call where the person repeats exactly what they said in the performance evaluation and then disappears for another month or two before the person hears. Now, that used to happen in a micro environment, but you would be sitting across from a person and you'd be able to actually have a human interaction with AI. And the kind of what we're creating right now, we're almost creating a situation where we won't even need the person that is giving you the performance evaluation because AI basically will have KPIs that we provided it. and metrics, and then it will produce a relationship that is so virtual and robotic that the whole idea of having a persona that you can motivate and kind of grow will basically go away. So things are going to get worse before they get better. But I'm very optimistic because the one thing with every technology that comes and goes, there's the bell curve, if you will. Think back when emails started. And at the beginning, people were afraid, we're going to lose our jobs because there's nobody to transcribe or to write in the King's English or whatever it is. Before that, there was voicemail. People said, how do we use voicemail? Or I don't want to return phone calls because it takes more time out of my day. So every kind of generation of technology has kind of made it a little bit less personalized. But I think the opportunity for those who actually listen to the market dynamics is to really ask the question, is what I'm doing creating trust? Is what I'm doing destroying trust? And am I staying true to my company's values, internal and external? And can I get everybody on board throughout the company? And that's called leadership versus management.
Right. I think one thing that's missing in a lot of these places I see when I'm going in is because we're always about purpose, recognition, right? Quality feedback, and then quality pay, like in that order, right? People want to work for purpose. And obviously they want, but the recognition part, that's what's missing. You want to build trust, start recognizing these people. And I mean daily. I don't mean every person every day. What I mean is we like, well, guys, and I do a lot of manufacturing. They got a morning huddle, right? 10, 15 minutes. Well, we train our commanders who are, the shift leads and stuff. Like you point out one person who did one thing the day before that they killed it. You crushed it, man. That was a great way to go. That's it. Okay. It doesn't seem like a lot. We recognize him, and the next day it's this guy and this lady and this, when you do that, that's a trust factor. Okay. Because they're showing you care. You see what they're doing. That matters. It creates that bond. I go to these places, they have no recognition system. Like you talk about a performance review, those are like they're they don't do anything. And then now they're so automated. It's like this is just like some machine checked the box because I put
Right.
things, and it dehumanizes everyone. So they'll sell you out for $1 an hour and go down the street. You know what I mean? That's that kind of thing, because I always tell people it's never money. Money's not the main reason people leave. It's they don't have purpose or they don't get recognition or any kind of feedback. Am I doing good? When I'm not doing good, do you actually come and correct me and help me do it better? But so many ways they say they just don't do this. It's just apps.
And it's very common now that, especially with AI, that needs to automate HR and company culture type of things and job descriptions. It's gotten to a point that if you go, for example, to Indeed, you have the ability to rewrite your resume using AI. So another bot will read your resume and scan through the words that will make you a candidate for a job, for a better fit. And that's basically the loss of humanity, because if you didn't meet the person before you read their resume, you're basically creating a fallacy that because they have the skills, they fit your company. And we know that that's not the case. We know that only maybe 1%.
Yeah, I love this because the other, like 2 weeks ago, my son's girlfriend filling out a new resume. She's moved here and she's gonna, got to go do things. 20 years old, but she's got 4 or 5 years of work experience, working on a farm, working as a Subaru dealer, doing all this stuff. So she does the AI thing, right? Gets in Gemini and does it's called the employer safe resume, which is just one giant yawn. Okay. Like if you've got AI tracking it and, oh yeah, well, they have this experience, this many years, like what are they actually looking for? Right. So what we did, I said, that's not going to go. I'm an employer, have been for 30 some years. I go, your goal on this is to get a phone call for an interview. Okay. You got to stand out. Now, if it's just AI is stuck to reading that, so we had it redo it, okay, add some humor, okay, really tell a story with each thing, talking about Wisconsin weather and alarm clocks and this really cool stuff for all these points. That's like, and I did it in my presentation. I showed it to everyone. I go, who's getting a call? Everyone's like, she is. That's right. She's going to get in for an interview because hard
Human
worker. I can
being.
do this. I've done this. I've been underneath cars, so it's a difference. But she could also, to what you're saying, could get bumped because she doesn't have, whatever the AI might be looking for. So I don't
Yes.
know if they're humanizing it that way too. Like, but I'm like, that's a killer resume now. And the crowd went wild. So it was
Well, the
good.
question, who does it kill?
Yeah.
That resume. And so what we're seeing is because robotics and digital anything is based on meeting the same standards across the board. It's linear thinking. It's the new industrial revolution, if you want to think about it.
Mhm.
But it's about doing the same thing again and again to produce repeatable and predictable outcomes, which is great. But if you don't have the human elements, the human condition, if you will, and again, the resumes is something that I see a lot, where I get resumes that have the same skill sets that I didn't even advertise to hire somebody.
Right.
I know that I don't have to read the resume because the resume is likely to have been written by AI,
Yeah.
and I need to really work hard to find the people that have the persona that might fit the type of environment we work in, which is a lot of deadlines, a lot of changing behavior of clients, and being creative. So these things are not something that you can invent. It's something that you either have it or you don't.
Yeah. I think I'm with you on that. I see the same thing. Like you're not, how you describing your culture, because you need a culture fit. What kind of characters these people have, are they going to be a fit here? I mean, you have to be able to get to that, but like I said, when we alter that, like, they'll know if that's the person they want to work with, right? But again, if it's just going through an AI separator, okay, it may just get lost in the shuffle, go in the digital trash bin. And so I think owners have to really reevaluate this. I had a woman on my podcast, speaking of resumes and things like that. She's got a whole different system, right? It's amazing. Like the quality, it's really cool. She's automated it. I'm air quoting that, but I mean, it's like it's real. It is absolutely awesome. And she's looking to kind of knock Indeed off the map. Okay. And she's going to do it. And it's so she's taken the technology and really using what they're actually looking for. You know what I mean? So it's really fascinating. I love it was a great conversation, but I'm like, that's what we need. That's how people have to start thinking about using AI as a correct tool, so you can get the best outcome. Because I think so many, like you're saying, so many people you're not getting results from an Indeed or a ZipRecruiter and stuff like that. You're not getting the results you want. And it drags the whole thing out. And like I said, your best person is probably on the bottom of the pile in the digital trash can somewhere.
Absolutely. And I think when you think about what is the difference between one of the two evaluation methods that you just discussed, the first one is really based on human interaction, uh, belief in human individuality. And the AI version of it is strip out all the individuality, don't put anything like a skill that doesn't belong, like you played the piano for 10 years, which is something that is actually important
It
to
is.
know. Uh, it doesn't mean that you're playing piano when you're working in an engineering firm, but if you do play the piano, you're part of a group of people that may like music, and that gives you an edge in real life versus a robot that basically can tell you and spit out exactly what accounting courses they took, and they got 3.8 GPA, and other than that, basically, if you ask them a question about the world, uh, current events, anything that is really kind of happening in society, they basically would
I it
collapse.
reminds me, Gal, it reminds me back way back, what's been now, maybe 18, 20 years ago, whatever now. but I had a headhunter find me a good office manager, right? So I got an interview people, they get the top three, they come in, I interview the first one, like, yeah, she's not bad. The next one, she's pretty good. Third one, okay, she comes in and like this goes right to your point. Okay, first thing I look at, she's a Marine. Okay, I'm like, okay, that's a good place to start. I'm so we instantly hit it off, but she had the qualifications, she crushed it, right? But that was the deciding factor. That was a deciding factor for me. Did it have relevance on being an office manager? Maybe, maybe not. But the whole thing was like, okay, there's a connection here, right? I know what a Marine is. I know I
Yeah,
can have
and
certain expectations on performance because they're at that level, right? So, and it worked out really, really well, really well.
yeah, and another thing that's happening that is actually working against a trend in society that we all thought is a positive one, which was to have inclusion and diversity of the workforce. Because we know from any innovation uh, that's, for example, the experiment that's called America is all built by immigrants that are coming from different places and then combining their skills with resources that people have locally. And then you get people that come from different cultures. And that adds to that discussion. So as people try to basically create environments that are more diverse, uh, what is really happening is you can't even uh, actually create a conversation uh, by mentioning it, because on one hand, we want to be fair, and on the other hand, we're not allowed to ask any questions,
Yeah, you can't
and
judge on
that's
merit.
why AI is picking out candidates.
Yeah, you're not judging on merit anymore. You can't like that's like the no. But I'm like I don't care what color, size, shape, where you came from. Like, can you do the deal? Okay, can you do? I want to talk to you. Like, if you can do the deal, you're in. Okay, if you can work, you're in. I was on a podcast as a guest with a guy like that too, and he kept going back to that. I go, like you're not getting it, man. I'm a merit guy. Show me your skills, show me your personality, show me your character. Are you going to fit me? You'll fit my culture. We're not white only, or like that. Matter of fact, it was quite the opposite. Just because of the industry. But I'm like, but who are you? Can you do it? All I want is performance. I want you to fit, get along with people, have a performance. And I think when you're like you're saying, when you automate this process, it's not really pulling that out at all. It's looking for the wrong markers, because
And you should
you get a
trust
few of them,
the
but then
human.
it can't continue into the deep ones that matter. Again, it won't even get across your desk.
Sure. And again, it comes back to if you want to be successful as an owner in any business for that matter, and you have close interaction with your employees, it really provides you with a kind of a cultural bed of activities that allow you to kind of customize whatever it is that will make these people happy. And they will recruit the next group of people because they're like-minded and bring it to the company and create a better culture. But instead, many companies, especially the mid-sized to the larger companies, are now basically depending and putting all the money into AI solving all the problems of culture.
Yeah.
And it's also built in with regulation that says you can't ask these questions. You can't tell a joke. You can't do this. You can't do that. So what's left?
Yeah.
An Excel sheet,
Nothing.
if you will.
Right. It's you know what, to me, it's laziness and it's fear. Those are the two things. They're lazy. They all just have AI do it, so we don't have to. Then we can blame AI because we're afraid if we say one wrong thing, then the whole business crumbles or I lose my job. So everyone got so paranoid because a lot of people lost their jobs for really silly things. With COVID, pre and post, and everything. All this stuff was like it was nuts. So everyone started fearing this thing, this boogeyman that's out there, right? That really had no relevance for all of history. Okay, but now all of a sudden they got this, and they find this tool, AI, and now they put into that, and they can have total control. Doesn't mean they're going to get good output, but they're going to have total control, right? So it's a false sense of improvement, right? They think they're doing this better, but they're not getting, and the data's showing it. They're not getting the people who can do the work. You know,
Right.
it's ton of money's been lost on just and a bad hire. Oh, the cost for one thing, we do a lot of stuff on retention, just trying to keep people. The cost of a bad hire is anywhere from 10,000 to 120,000, depending on the level. And you can go through that in 6 months or a year, 3 months, and so they haven't factored that into AI. Okay, where's the retention aspect? Like what are you actually trying to do? And I always ask people, I say, well, what's your ROI point on a hire? Is it 6 months, 18 months, 2 years? When do they become a true asset? When are they making more than they're taking for your company? When are they bringing that kind of value? You need to know what that number is, because you're paying X amount of dollars, salary or per hour. But like,
Yeah.
when does that turn? Because you got to
And
train, you got to get them adjusted. If you don't know that number, okay, and then they quit at 7 months and 9 months is the ROI, wow, you just dumped 7 months of pay and effort and training and other people's resources to get them equipped, and they're gone. So it's
yeah,
a tough thing.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's amazing. So let's go a little more on the trust aspect. Okay. So
Mhm.
we've kind of hit the resume stuff and all the hiring aspect. So once we get inside the company, okay, let's do that. Now we can do it from an employer standpoint, or we can do it from, do you want to do, and then we can do both, but which one do you want to start with? Inside the company trust, or do you want to do marketing trust? Customer,
Um,
business, B to C.
they're really interconnected, but I would tell you that the reason that trust is eroding is typically starts within the company,
I agree.
not
Good.
outside the company.
Right.
Um, so that's something that we can
You know what I heard? I had a guest on a week or two ago, and he says something that's just awesome. Running this company for like 38 years. Bought it 30 years ago. It's HVAC, and it's really great story. But he's like, well, the first thing we do is we focus on our employees' customer service. We have customer service for our employees. And I went, man, I haven't like heard it put that way. He goes, yeah, no, we literally have customer service for the employees. We're number one with this, and I'm like, now there's someone thinking the right way, because he said exactly what
absolutely.
you're saying. He goes, if we're not good in here, they're not going to be good out there. And we're they're doing HVAC and plumbing and all this kind of stuff. Like, they're in people's homes. Okay, they're in buildings and
Yeah,
everything else. So yeah, it's
yes. And in fact, you're just kind of sparked a memory in my head of a real situation that I experienced. Maybe it was 10 years ago, where an HVAC company came to uh, replace the heating pump so we can actually have heat or
neat.
cold weather, whatever it is. And like most people, you don't know what's inside the box. You just know that you need,
Right.
to be warm inside your house, right? And then two technicians show up. The company's brand is pretty kind of well known through the advertising. And then, I just pass by, to check if they're doing their job, and, the homeowner type of anxiety that
Right.
things will go wrong. So I kind of go down to the basement where they're installing and removing and then installing the system. And I overhear them talking about the workplace and things like, you know, this is a company full of flies. They always lie to us. They don't give us the right equipment to come and do it fast, because the company will make more money if they use a inferior tool. Uh, and a lot of complaints, and kind of sharing with each other about how much they hate their managers. And when you think about that, and then they finish the job and they put a sticker to promote the company on uh, the HVAC system, you created a brand for the company. So that the internal brand might be that they're afraid to say anything because it's hard to get a job in certain times. But in reality, it just went right to the customer in this case, which was myself. And it ruined the idea that I'm going to do business with them ever, because I knew basically that if they don't appreciate their employees, and the employees are not really kind of signed up for a good customer experience, and they don't have the right tools, why would I trust that that company is going to be my company for
Yeah,
the next
and
5 or 10 or 15
when
years?
your techs are talking to each other about how bad that it's a bad situation. That company's really poorly run. Okay, like it's wow. Yeah, I know. And then, like I said, this gentleman I had on was it was so refreshing because I deal with a lot of contractors and all this stuff all the time, right? I coach them and everything else. And what he built was just, I'd almost say one of a kind. His training facility for training everybody, it's like a football field inside, turf and posters of sports, all this kind of stuff. Like it's like people want to train. They come and he has an apprenticeship program and brings young kids, high school kids, in to train, learn, and get into the trade. So he's created his own pipeline, and stuff like that. But he just dominates the region, because everyone loves it. They love their jobs. They love to go to work, and they go out and he teaches them how to talk to the customers. Like that stuff. If I ever heard my guys, if I came on a site and they're talking like that, oh, we'd have a conversation. Okay. And if it was actually my fault, okay, well then I'm gonna have a conversation with me. But if they're, you'll get those bad apples, if you will, who are always causing problems. Well, I just eliminate those people. I mean, I walk them to
Yeah.
the truck right there on the site because
Yes, as long as it's done, fairly, kind of fairly in the context of, what their responsibilities are and what, the company culture is. If everybody's screwing up, then it's not them. If they're kind of sticking like a sore thumb, basically, then you have an opportunity to tell them you're not part of the DNA of the
right,
company that we talked about. But
exactly.
it reminds me of an actual example that was in the news and continues to be in the news, where uh, the culture of safety in Boeing as a company used to be way up there as kind of a case study for how you do things right, only to find out that when they start hiring contractors, somebody didn't tell somebody about a screw that was supposed to go under a wing or in an engine, and suddenly uh, a plane crashed. And the plane did not crash because the entire kind of huge machinery failed. It's because a screw or whatever it is that had to be there that they knew about was not communicated to the higher ups in the company, because they thought about them as higher ups, not as partners in making it successful. And it created a bad safety culture.
Yep.
We're seeing that in multiple industries happening now, a lot more than it used to. Maybe possibly it's a result of things that are happening now and people can see it, which means, you know, accidents are more visible, news coverage and social media perpetuate it. And even if it's not true, if that's what people perceive about your company, which goes to the external part, the narrative that you tell people, and if your culture is about safety first, and then people are experiencing the opposite, they're putting reviews. Employees put reviews on Glassdoor. Consumers put reviews on Google reviews, on Trustpilot. And what does that create? It creates a situation where we no longer totally control our narrative. So, from a branding point of view, if we can't control our narrative, we're in big trouble. So, building the system, knowing that if this is your promise, safety first, everything needs to go inside and outside the company in that direction. If you don't, you're likely to face that situation where people are afraid to tell you that the systems are failing because they don't want to get a demotion or they get punished for it by a mid-size or middle management, if you will.
There's my son was looking for a job. There's a new company. good size, pretty decent size that opened up, and it's been about a year, 2 years maybe. And so he jumps on Indeed, and you get employee reviews on Indeed of the place. Oh, it could be a whole comedy skit. The reviews these employees wrote, how bad it was, and then you get these corporate chat bots that'll say, "Oh, it's a wonderful place to work," and you could tell something. They trying to combine it because they had come out here from the East Coast, so they kind of had the East Coast mentality, like New Jersey, and now you're here in Wisconsin. We're different. Okay, so you can't, that thing. But he's reading me these things, Gal, and I'm like, that is hilarious. I mean, you could tell they're real because no one's going to think this stuff up. This is real stuff that's happening in there. I'm like, what a disaster. I mean, no one.
Yes.
It's like no one would even. He goes, I'm not even going to apply.
Yeah.
So
And that really goes back to the kind of the elements of building trust is you have to have transparency, and you can do those kind of questions and answers sessions with employees. You get a better product that comes out. Because if they know about, for example, defects in building a car, whatever it may be, it may be hard to hear, but if you invest in it, the car or whatever you're buying that can fail is likely to have a higher standard of manufacturing built into it. And I think that's what people are missing. They take every kind of criticism as, kind of personal. And because you can't be vindictive against your employees by law, people keep their stuff to themselves. And that
yeah, I
goes to
think
both sides.
because I have developed a whole diagnostic to measure. I call it command on the floor, so manufacturing on the actual floor. That's where the majority of profit leakage comes from. Okay, there's these different, we'll call them leadership gaps if you want, whatever, but a lot of disparities in there. And I have a way to measure all that and put an ROI to all this just by closing a 10% range of that gap, right? It becomes millions of dollars, but they're not enforcing standards, right? They're negotiating, they're debating, they're doing all this stuff. So again, it's a culture thing because everyone's afraid to do it. So we go and we install command, we diagnose it. I do a full diagnostic. And then we come in and we install command, and we're able to prevent drift and entropy and all the other good stuff, right? That happens all the time because we're human beings. You're always going to have drift, but you got to catch it early and fix it, right? So on these factory floors, it's the same thing. Everyone's afraid, or they don't, or they take, the classic is you got the great worker and they promote him to be a supervisor. He has no desire to be a supervisor, but he gets a title and more money. So he takes it, but now he hates his life. And he was so good at doing what he does. So now you removed him from there. That end goes down. He doesn't know how to run people. You don't really equip him. You just put him in a position. That goes down. That spreads among others. So look at the compounding effect from just just one shift like that. Because they're not really understanding. Again, that's a cultural thing. It's a training thing and all that. It kind of goes all the way up the chain. But you see this a lot out there, right? People don't have the ability to say no. Like they're going to make you, they're going to promote you. I don't want. I had a guy. I was down at this huge distribution place in Kentucky. It was actually Dollar General. I'm down to the original one for Dollar General, and I'm walking around with the site manager there, and he goes, "See that guy on the forklift?" And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "50 years. 50 years he's been here on that forklift." I go, "Oh my gosh." Can you imagine? I go, that's an anomaly. There's a guy 50 years. That's a man who's content. Yeah, right. And I'm thinking about all the things he actually ran into with that forklift, over 50 years. But you see that kind of stuff, right? But here's a guy who's totally content. He's good. He's good. He's gonna drive a forklift. He can do that 50 years. Okay, you don't find those people. But I think a lot of this, the trust factor, from a leadership standpoint, I don't think they understand how to gain it. They're in their office too much. They're not seen on the floor. There's a lot of different factors that we teach and stuff too. Even your shift supervisors and stuff too. But a lot of times they get inundated with all this paperwork and system work and everything else where they're not on the floor. That creates disparity, right?
Yep.
Because
And
people
when
can't.
you have this alignment of values
Right.
between what you say and what you actually do, if you don't hold the CEO accountable, the executive management accountable, the middle management, the supervisors accountable, and ultimately the employees but all around the values that they discussed as being kind of this is who we are as a company. That's really kind of the difference between having, as you know, from your military Marine service, that, if it's not a fit, it basically it can continue because you have to trust blindly the person behind you.
Yep,
And
exactly.
if they're not, they don't have your back, it doesn't work.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
the core values thing is something that's interesting too. You talk to a lot of companies, they don't really have them documented. What are your core values?
they don't have it.
They don't. That and they wonder why like everything's chaos. And
Yes.
I just like we have to start there. Like you can't
And
you
the funniest
because
part,
you no core
the funny,
values, you can't have standards. And if you
yeah.
don't have standards, you have chaos.
And the funniest part is that many studies show that profitability and kind of higher productivity comes from companies that actually went through the exercise of
Mhm.
asking, what do we stand for? What
That's right.
is, below our standard? What's above our standard? What does an ex company employee looks like? And it actually helps the company grow.
That's right.
And if you don't do that and you don't train and people don't trust each other in the boardroom, which is another huge uh, kind of component of how the companies run, I think that's where everything goes to hell.
Yeah, I always say it starts at the top. You can't get away from it. The biggest problem's in the highest seat. I mean, if they're not diligent, if they're not defining their core values, if they're not, you know, having their leaders build more leaders, and that kind of stuff, and just have this taskmaster mentality. I mean, it all begins up there. Okay. And that's where they have to take that responsibility and that ownership to understand that. But it's a hard road, to get there sometimes to let them know. So that's kind of why I start on the floor and then make change on the floor and then see that working. And then I have trust with those above, right? I show I can do my thing because I'm coming for them. I'm coming for them, Gal. I'm coming up the chain. I just can't. You can't go in and tell the CEO you're no good. Okay, you usually don't get a check for that. Okay, so so we go down, prove what I can do this, and we kind of well, what else can we fix? It's kind of that thing. We kind of work our way back up the chain. So very important to understand all of this. It's been really a great conversation as far as the trust factor, because I just want to bring this full circle that I think the trust is the undervalued aspect out there. You got the know, you got the like, and then there's the trust, right? Well, it's third because it's the hardest. Okay. People can know you. That's not hard. Okay. They can like you. He's okay. Until they actually spend an hour with you. Maybe they might not like you. Okay. But you seem like a nice person. But the trust, okay, that's a big deal. That's a really big deal. And trust can be broken pretty easy. So again, it comes back to a standards, a core value, ethics, things like that. Those are things that solidify trust among a group, right? So I think it's important that we have this as the big takeaway, that this trust aspect is critical to having a successful business, whether you have 3 employees or 3,000. I think it's all the same. It's irrelevant on the size.
Absolutely. You really kind of capped the conversation around what it really is. What I would say in interviewing CEOs for the book, I found very often that they don't use the word trust. They use other words that relate to solving transactional problems.
Yeah.
But this is not a transactional problem. This is a cultural problem. And if you don't use the word trust, you're really kind of hiding behind other kind of things like quality assurance and safety. I mean, obviously, you need to have it,
Right.
but on the human level, we're kind of moving as a society overall to, well, let's use AI to get the outcomes that we need.
Right.
But
Do you ever have them define trust? Like, what's your
yeah,
definition? You ask them, what's your definition of trust? Like, that's
yeah,
just like what we were talking about earlier, like core values. They don't know what they are. Well, what does trust mean to you? You have
And,
500 employees. What does trust mean?
and the answer to that is in my book, I talk about kind of creating kind of framework to finding out what trust is for executive management, owners, employees as well, human resource departments. And what it boils down to is you got to have something that's I call a trust index. You have to start by asking 10 questions that align with the values of the company. Like, for example, promises made, promises kept. Do we actually do as well as we think we do on the outside? Start with a piece of paper, with a kind of a board where you can kind of write up what are our 10 kind of values that relate to customers. And then have somebody who's not biased uh, go back and measure it every quarter, and then create an action plan for wherever the problem is to make sure that that standard is improving, and that will produce trust. When you hide the information, that will produce chaos or lack of quality that we're all looking for, quality and safety.
Right. Right. Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah. It's a great topic, Gal. I'm really glad you spent this time with us today because I don't really think I've drilled down on trust for a whole show. So this is unique, and that always makes my show better. So thank you for that. And I like the way we've broke it down and defined it and everything else here, and giving people really something to chew on, and start looking in their own companies. Like, what are you doing in the trust area? We covered the full gamut here. So very useful, and I appreciate that. So how can people get in touch with you, get your book, that whole thing?
Very easy. You can visit my agency's website, which is borensteingroup.com. You can hook up on LinkedIn and kind of create an invitation and connect with me. I love talking to people that have read the book, but also people that are looking for genuine advice. And advice sometimes is free. It's not about creating a transaction. It's about helping people get to where they need to be. And sometimes they're grateful and come back. And the third is after LinkedIn and the website is, of course, if you're interested in reading how the stuff works and the framework that I created for trust, go to Amazon and you'll see my two recent books. One is called Don't Believe the Hype, which we talked about. And the latest book, which is for small business owners, playbook of how to use AI to beat Goliath.
Nice.
And it's all about the fact that you can beat the biggest guys because they're
Yes.
not listening. They're not focusing on things that will make them a better company. And as a small business, you have the capacity and the agility to
Yeah.
learn fast
Love it.
and to kind of move forward.
Yeah, so I talk about that a lot. I show them the tools, like use this way. It levels the playing field with the biggest of the big. Like you will compete on their level. It's amazing what you can do when you know how to use the tools properly, because they're game changers. People just are too. They're plain. They treat it like a social media toy. You know, but it is what it is. But the people who are listening to guys like me, let's talk about this stuff. Let's see how we can apply this stuff in our business. Because the number one thing we do, books are great. I've written books, you've written books. We got to apply that knowledge. I always end this way. Like we got to put the stuff in play. Great to read, appreciate it. But man, go take action on this stuff. Start changing your business because it's immediate. This stuff is immediate. This isn't some long term. I got to play with this for a year and a half. It's like you can start implementing things tomorrow.
Absolutely.
And then that's what you need to do. Be an action taker. Imperfect action wins the day every day. Well, Gal, this has been absolutely fantastic. I appreciate all the time you've given us today. Been just a really, really great conversation, as I knew it would be. And for everybody else, we'll see you on the next STS podcast. Thanks for joining me on the Sharpen the Spear podcast. If you're a manufacturing executive and you're serious about unlocking hidden profit, improving frontline leadership, and taking control of your floor, Go to grit2lead.com right now. Run the free Sharpened Impact Simulator and discover your biggest opportunities are hiding. Don't leave millions on the table. Sharpen your spear, lead from the front, and win the floor. Until next time, stay sharp.